All right, you guys can all populate. We'll get started here. We will open it up for questions.
I guess to start off, for any one of you guys, when did you realize the significance of what happened 50 years ago?
Well, I guess I was the one that mentioned it to the guys, but really we didn't realize it until we got ready to go on the field what was happening. I'm sure guys looked at the lineup just to figure out who was playing, but we didn't really realize until we got on the field what was going on.
Al, I'm curious, you had a comment in a story by the great Kevin Gorman the other day where you mentioned that, you're surprised that the significance of this hasn't maybe been recognized by Major League Baseball in the way that you would expect. I guess sort of curious, what are your thoughts on, why you think that is, and why do you think, while this day is known well locally, maybe it doesn't resonate nationally as much as maybe we initially would like it to?
I think what happened was it might have been a situation where a lot of people might have taken it for granted because, the Pirates were always loaded with Latin players. They were always loaded with black players. And to see 7 black players and Latin players out in the field was no big deal. It was something that they were used to seeing. And I think that's the reason why it wasn't a big thing at that time. I think some of the players at that time really didn't realize that we had made history, because we definitely didn't take the field, to make history. But as it turned out, it was history. And the thing that I feel great about it was that it proved the unity that we had on our team. It proved that we had a manager that really didn't be concerned about race. It kind of reminds me of the story of Joel Brown, our general manager. What we did, we signed players because they could play, not the church that they went to. And every time I hear that quote, I gotta laugh because it's true. It doesn't matter what church you go to, as long as you can play some ball. That's what we're looking for. And the thing that I feel great about is it happened also approximately 3 years after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And this is what he was trying to explain to our society, that when we come together as one, good things can happen. And as a result of that, in September of 1971, on the 1st, he proved that point, that when we come together, good things can happen. And I'm quite sure if he would have been alive, he would have felt good about seeing all the minority players out there on that team. And why it took so long, I really don't know. I know people were aware of it. Maybe they were afraid to mention it. It might scare some people away. I really don't know. But it didn't. I'm just glad that I was involved with these kind of players who were good and who were great players.
Just as a quick follow-up, this is for any of you guys. I mean, you guys say in the moment that it wasn't, maybe it didn't register that it was like a big deal. I'm curious, 50 years later, does it feel maybe more monumental now than maybe it felt at the time?
It definitely feels more monumental to me. And I think the key too is, I have 4 grandkids. I have 2 grandsons who are 24 and 22. And my kids, it's important to them to know that their people was part of baseball history. I think that's the key. You know, that's something that can be passed down, something that cannot be taken away. And I just feel good that they are aware of that fact.
Now, you played for a couple of different organizations. Were the Pirates unique in how they just went for the best players available? What was that feeling like around that group back in the early 70s?
Anybody? Right. Well, you know, we had a general manager named Joe Brown, and he didn't care what color you were. Like Al mentioned, he didn't care what church you went to. But he was looking for some players that wanted to play the game, wanted to be able to be a winner. And that was the main, our main objective was to win ball games. We wanted to go to the playoffs. In 1970, we went to the playoffs and got beat. And I think that that was a lesson to us. We wouldn't play that well, and Cincinnati beat us. But in 71, we came back. We played a powerful team, the San Francisco Giants, that had Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, a couple of Hall of Famers, and Juan Marichal and Gaylord Perry, and no one gave us a chance there. And then we went and played 4 20-game winners in Baltimore, and the headlines in the newspapers that Baltimore was going to win the series in 3. Well, we knew you had to win the game in 4, and it was really embarrassing. I mean, it lit a fire under us, okay? And then Earl Weaver comes out with the statement that you can't win with Jackie Hernandez playing shortstop. And that was really a slap in the face to us. So we were kind of keyed up right from the start, although it didn't look too good in the beginning because they crushed us the first 2 games. But Danny Murtaugh made a statement that I'm sure maybe you all read, that, you know, if you think the Pirates are dead, you got another thing coming, my friends. And we came back and shellacked them 3 games in a row at our place and got the series 3-2 on our side. And you could never underestimate what we could do as a team because we thought we could beat anybody. And, you know, that was the Baltimore had beat everybody else, but they hadn't beat us. And I think in everybody's heart on our team, we didn't think anybody could beat us, put it that way, in a 7-game series.
One of the unique things about that particular day was Doc Ellis was the starter as an African-American pitcher. How far do you think we're away from seeing more black starters? And can we get to a point where we could see another all black and brown starting 9? Thank you.
I feel that it may not be too far away. I think the key is going to be you might see an all Latino starting lineup more so than you would see the mixture of Afro-Americans and Latinos. And the reason why I say that is the fact that, you know, our young Afro-American kids have gravitated to basketball. They have gravitated to football. And the reason why they've done that is that's all they really see on TV, on the commercials, are the football players and the basketball players. But you really don't see a lot in baseball of baseball players doing commercials. And, you know, as an Afro-American individual, you have a tendency to do things that look like you. And that kind of is a drawing card. You know, they still like the basketball, football players. But like me, I grew up, you know, with Jackie Robinson and Bader Pinson and Frank Robinson. You know, as you notice, I'm talking about the Reds again. But being from Southern Ohio, that's the team that I grew up with. You know, those players. I knew Clemente was playing, and Mays and Aaron. We just get their bubblegum cards all the time. So we had something to look at that looked like us. And until we get back to that, we may not see another mixture of those type of players together.
Can I follow up real quickly? Is there something that MLB can do, or former players like you, or a combination of both, can do to maybe start to change that?
Well, it's kind of hard because, you know, in football and basketball, they don't have to go to the minor leagues. And in baseball, you're going to the minor leagues if you want to make it to the big leagues, in most cases. I mean, there's very few players that have come out of high school and come out of college and go right straight to the big leagues. And I think that's been a big deterrent. Guys don't want to go to the minor leagues. They want to go to the show right now. You can't blame them.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us. Appreciate you making yourselves available. Wanted to ask you a question. Do you think Major League Baseball missed the mark by not having the Pirates home for this occasion? Would it have made it any better to have had a home game today and have a chance to not only celebrate the 50th anniversary, but to do it in front of Pirates fans?
I think that it would have been good, but sometimes scheduling, is a major part of a day like today. We just can't help it on September the 1st that the Pirates are out of town. That couldn't be helped. I'm quite sure if you ask anyone in the Pirate front office, they would say yes, it would be nice if the fans were here, if the players were here, the city's players that pretty much paved the way for them. I'm quite sure that's something that they would love to have seen.
Also wanted to ask Roberto, if your father shared memories of this game and how much it meant to him, the importance of the occasion, and was that something that you've heard stories from him or others, and what was just that like to hear that he was part of that game?
Dad, just this core group of guys, for him, what he was fighting for outside of the game. He represented the minority people. He felt that when he first put his uniform on in 1955, he was representing the Latino, but not the Latino, but the all minority, the hardworking class. And that for him, I know it was a special day to have all his brothers on that team that day. And I knew it was a special moment because that's, they have arrived in his mind.
Gene, as you look back, what was the pride of that day? Not just winning that game, but getting 10 runs in that game with the lineup.
Go ahead, Gino.
Well, with that team, the main objective is to win. And our job was to go out there and take care of business and win. There was no set amount of runs to be scored. As long as we scored one more run than the opposition. But our job was to go out there and send a message that you're playing against the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the best hitting teams in baseball. And that's the message we wanted to convey to everybody in baseball. When you play the Pirates, you better be ready.
It didn't look too good in the beginning because they strapped a couple runs on us down in the first inning. I don't know if you guys ever looked at the box score, but then once we got our turn, we dropped a 5 spot on them in the first inning, and we actually end up winning 10-7. When you played us, we hated to lose. I never seen a team like that before. And I played with 3 other clubs that had some pretty good players on them. But playing with these guys, I mean, when they were seriously mad when they made an out. It was no, we had a company called the Lumber Company, okay? And Al and Richie Hebner was a part of that. And when they made an out, you better get out of the way because they would go down there and do some woodwork on that batting rack. When those guys made an out, we got out of their way because they took out their frustration on that bat rack. And that's why they were called the Lumber Company.
The one thing that I never forget about September 1st, 1971, I looked at the lineup card, and it didn't dawn on me until later. I looked at it about 4 or 5 times, and we had a great hitting team, and I thought I was a pretty good hitter, but when I looked at the lineup card, I'm hitting 7th. And I said, hey, this has to be a great team. And so I said to myself, we have to win the World Series. We got to go to the World Series because I was hitting 7th in that lineup. And that just goes to show you what kind of talent that we had.
All right, anything else for the group?
Yeah, I'm sort of curious. What was the response to your teammates that looked like me that day? You know, I know that Murtaugh had to kind of move a couple of bodies around. What was the response from your teammates?
Our teammates were great. You know, it didn't matter to them that, you know, all the brothers were out there. And, it was just two of them on the bench, and that was Richie Hebner and Bob Robertson. And, you know, like Willie Stargell said it best, we'll be known to make quotes. You know, most of us were known for our quotes, but Starge said, you know what really happened, and the reason why the minority team came about in September the 1st, 1971, is the fact that we decided to give the white players a day off.
Actually, I got one more thing, if that's okay, gentlemen. What, if any, interactions have you guys had with Brian Hayes in particular, and what have you talked to him about the significance of being a black ball player in Pittsburgh?
Unfortunately, you know, I get to Pittsburgh maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and I really haven't got to meet him yet, although his dad and I are Facebook buddies. And, you know, so we stay in touch on Facebook. And I never forget him saying he was nervous when his son first played his first game. So I texted him back and I said, man, sit back and relax and enjoy.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Our pleasure.